should I lay out a fleece to make my next important decision?
Quick answer, no, I don't think you should. The narrative of Gideon begins in chapter 6. And I specifically do want to talk about the bit with Gideon and his fleece, because, you hear Christians say that, well, we're praying about having our 14th kid. Should we lay out a fleece? Because what happens in this narrative is God tells Gideon exactly what to do and how to go to battle. So Gideon has his instructions from God, like directly from God, which is impressive. And then read with me in Judges 6:36. This is what it says. It says, "Then Gideon said to God, 'If you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, behold, I am laying a fleece of wool on this threshing floor.'" Okay, so big problems. Anytime you're saying if you're going to do what you said to God, like that's a no-no, right? Because of course God always does what he says he's going to do. So that's strike number 1. And then God actually does it, which is really sweet of God. And this is where people are like, well, but God actually did the trick, so that means it's okay. And it's like, no, okay, if like my kid's about to jump off of the roof of a building that's, burning, and I'm like, come here, jump to mommy, I'm going to save you. And then he's like, well, I don't know if you will. Turn around 3 times and touch your nose. And I'm like, okay, I'll do your trick, so you'll jump so I can save you. Like, that's not me affirming that that's a good test. That's me cooperating with you for being ridiculous when I'm actually just trying to save your life. So it's kind of like that. It's like, okay, I'll put the do here and I'll put the do there. But it's not God saying this is a good idea. It's just God cooperating with a guy who lacks faith, which is really sweet of God. Tender. Yes. So the text here is emphasizing the kindness of God, not the appropriateness of a sign. And we can even see Gideon knows it. So if you look in verse 39, it says, "Then Gideon said to God, 'Let not your anger burn against me.'" Like he knows. Like
he knows he's testing.
Right, he knows he's testing. And look, this is how we know he knows he's testing. "Let me speak just once more. Please let me test just once more with the fleece." And then he asks God to do it again. So like it literally says.
And I mean, if we know our Pentateuch, aren't we told not to test the Lord?
Like overtly. It says,
the author is that is the author stepping in and saying, this is not the way to go.
Yes. So ultimately, no, I don't think it's okay to lay out a fleece. This is not something that we should emulate. The purpose of this text is not be like Gideon. The purpose of this text is, doesn't Gideon have a good God? Yes. Who uses sinners who struggle with their doubt ultimately to bring about his divine plan. And to Gideon's credit, we do see he has an ounce of faith. Matter of fact, we see that with a lot of our judges, Jephthah, Gideon, all these guys, Barak, like they're mentioned in the Hall of Faith.
They exhibit faith, and God still honors that. Many of them are praised in Hebrews for their faith. So they can't just be villains. But we also see so many of them contradict.
In the book of Hebrews.
In the book of Hebrews. But so many of them contradict Scripture, do not know or act according to the law or how they should. And so you can't make them either way. But what you can do is make sure that you are emphasizing what this passage reveals about the character of God. So I would say in Gideon, he's ironically called a man of valor, a man of strength. This passage, that is the theme, the strength. Gideon keeps trying to do things in his own strength and even provide himself strength with assurances and with many other things. And God keeps kindly wiping them down patiently over and over again, paring him down till he has the measly amount of humans to battle, and then God is able to be his might. So we see that aspect of like God desires us to have faith in his might, not our own. So in the same sense, you have Jael's story, Deborah's story, Barak. It's that God, just anyone who's willing to come in faith. And hey, your faith is not in your might, your faith is in his. So ultimately, the way you deal with these judges is not by making them heroes, but by allowing them to point to the character of God. And the questionable character of these judges is not the hardest thing to deal with in the book of Judges. Personally, I think the hardest text to wrestle with in the book of Judges comes in the last several chapters, which is the abuse of the concubine. And we're going to talk about how to teach that well in this next video.